Yes, it's John G. Sutton. Tales from the Jails. I'm going to talk today about a complete arsehole called Damian Bendall. I know that people on here say perhaps I shouldn't be so personally critical of people, but he's a shithouse. He murdered his partner who was living with, a lady called Terry Harris, who was aged 35. He murdered her 11-year-old daughter Lacey. But before he murdered Lacey, he raped her. He murdered her son, John, who was aged 13. And he also murdered Lacey's friend who was staying with them, a young lady called Connie. And he admitted that he'd raped Lacey, but then he beat them to death with a claw hammer. The details of this event were so horrific that the news have not been fully reporting on them. They briefly touched upon this. I mean, if you've been watching the BBC News and ITV News, they're basically touching on this and saying that he has been sentenced to a whole life term. Now, the whole life term was recently introduced under the Police Crime Sentencing Courts Bill, passed in 2022, which takes the power away from the Home Secretary and hands it to the judges. So the judges can decide if the case is so heinous that it deserves to be handed a whole life sentence to the prisoner. And the prisoner, Damian Bendall, who changed his plea on the last minute, by the way. He was pleading guilty to manslaughter, but he changed his plea to guilty to murder. And he'd murdered the 4 people with a claw hammer. Apparently beat the skulls in. But you won't hear that on the BBC News. Anyway, on the subject of whole life terms, there are currently 60 inmates in British prisons serving whole life terms. Now, the issue with whole life terms is how do you control these people? I mean, you can't take away any remission. They haven't got any remission. You can't sentence them to any more imprisonment because they're already serving an indeterminate sentence without end. And as Damian Bendall is just aged 32, he's probably got maybe 50 years in prison. Now, having served in prison, all right, I was an officer, but you're still in there. Let me tell you that. I mean, the differences between being a prisoner and being a prison officer are you've got keys and you can walk out. And you do at night. But the hours, I was working 60 hours a week. Not by choice. It was because the Prison Officers Association had agreed with management that there would be a thing called compulsory overtime. Now, when there's compulsory overtime, you either work the overtime or you get dismissed for refusing direct orders and all the rest of it. And the Prison Officers Association did that in conjunction with senior management because why? Because the Prison Officers Association are or were senior management. Anyway, what do you do with somebody who's serving a whole life sentence? Well, let me tell you this. I've been on the long-term lifers wings, and it's a very relaxed regime. People who are on these rings are people who are like Rose West. She'll never come out. One of the Cromwell Street gang with her husband. Murdering young ladies. I heard 1 or 2 stories about that would horrify you. I won't go into them here. And people like Michael Abiola, I believe his name is, that big shithouse that murdered Lee Rigby, the soldier. He was murdered near Woolwich Barracks. I was at Woolwich Barracks in 1968. When I was with the Royal Artillery. So, just for a matter of time, it could have been me, because I used to go backwards and forwards into that barracks in full uniform. They tried to decapitate him, by the way. It wasn't just a a robbery or anything like that. They wanted to make a spectacle out of this man, and they were going to parade round with his head. That's Michael Abiola, yeah, and he's in prison at the moment on a whole life sentence. Somebody punched his teeth out. Don't you feel a little bit of remorse there? A little tear come in your eye when you hear things like that. Anyway, whole life, Terry, what do? They placate them. That's what they do. Because the days of Bootsy Brown, Piggy, the Black Dog, the Chinese money box, and me, well, I didn't take any messing about, but I was straightforward. I didn't go in to hurt anybody. Well, unless you had to, but you wouldn't stand messing about, would you? Anyway, shithouses like Damian Bendall are going to be in there for about 50 years, and they're going to be placated. That is, they'll be given a television set, an Xbox, access to education. I mean, I was working in the prisons, and I had to do my education outside the prison. Yeah. Didn't get time off, no time off. But I did manage to get a number of qualifications, yes, and then I was assaulted and out of it, yeah. But anyway, that's enough of that. Damian Bendall today sentenced to a whole life imprisonment, bludgeoned 4 people to death with a claw hammer, and raped an 11-year-old girl in the process. And people tell me I shouldn't make criticisms of these people. But I'll put that to one side and give you my personal thoughts on Damian Bendall. He is a shithouse. Now, I've got to warn you all here. It's a bit dangerous this time. Oh yes, it's the song dinger, folks. Stop that! I said stop it. Yeah, there you go. Stop now. That's a song dinger, and here we have a Christmas song. It's this has been by a special request actually. This is the Pogues' Fairy Tale of New York. I'm sorry about this, but it's got to go on it. 'Twas Christmas Eve, babe, in the drunk tank. An old man said to me, won't see another one. And then he sang a song, the rare old Mountain Dew. I turned my face away and dreamed about you. Oh, God, a lucky one. Came in 18-1. I got a feeling this year's for me and you. So happy Christmas. I love you, baby. I see a better time when all our dreams come true. They've got cars big as bars, then they've got rivers of gold, but the wind blows right through you. It's no place for the old. When you first took my hand on a cold Christmas Eve, you promised me Broadway was waiting for me. You were a handsome one, the Queen of New York City. When the band finished playing, they all howled out for more. Sinatra was swinging, all the drunks singing. We kissed on a corner, then danced through the night. The boys at the NYPD choir were singing Galway Bay, and the bells were ringing out for Christmas Day. You're a bum, you're a punk, you're a dirty old slut on junk, lying there almost dead on a drip in that bed. You're a scumbag, you maggot, you cheap, lousy faggot. Happy Christmas, your ass. I pray God it's your last. The boys of New York Police Department still singing Galway Bay, and the bells are ringing out for Christmas Day. There, I cocked that one up, didn't I? Anyway, that was it. My rather strange version of Fairy Tale of New York. Don't forget, folks, it's Christmas time, and what you really need on your Christmas table is a copy of my book. How can you fail to miss? There you go. It's on Amazon, folks. Thank you very much, and a Merry Christmas to you all.